Why don't people want to go to your LGS? Let's crush this. Why don't more people go to events at your local game store? That's what we're talking about today. And what kind of brought this up for me is a little while back, you know, I heard some people mention in some interviews, some LSS interviews, that there's some internal data, I guess, you know, that suggests that most people play at home, right? Most people look for their Evo Teclascope cold foil and they play it at home and they keep it at home. And that's where they do most of their playing, right? Not at local game store. And so I want to talk about why, maybe why. Think through that a little bit from my perspective. You know, and of course, personally, I don't know exactly how they get all that data or what that exact data looks like. I would love to look at it. I would love to dissect it and dig through it and have fun with that. But alas, I can't. I don't have any insights like that. But we're going to talk about my opinion about why, you know, a lot of times we just don't go to the game store to play these games. Not just Flesh and Blood, but it's going to be for any game. And of course, while we're doing it, we're cracking some packs because that's what we do. The madness continues. We want to finish this set. We want to get closer, and I found some more boxes somehow. So we're going to keep going through the set. There is a list on the right hand of your screen that you can take a look at now for all the things we're missing. And we're going to see if memory can help me as I go through this, because sometimes I have a hard time remembering this many boxes, packs, cases in. We're way in. We are way in. What are we, 18, 19 cases, something like that. And we're going. We're going. Anyways. So there's kind of like, I mean, the very first thing that I've actually been thinking about lately is, like, do you ever just think about, for your local game store, like how few people, to an event, to not an event, but how few people actually just in general go to your local game store? Like, think about how many people are in your city, and then think about how many people come to play at your local game store, right? Like, it's like, okay, you can be in a city, a little protocol there. You can be in a city with, I don't know, like where I'm at, there's thousands of people, right? Let's say you're somewhere in a city between 50 to 100,000 people in it, and there's one, maybe two game stores that hold events. And then your average, I don't know what your attendance would be on an average Friday night, but let's say it's 20 people. Maybe it's, Stasis, oh, we've seen so many of you. Maybe you got 30 people. You got an amazing store. You got 50 people out of 50,000 who showed up, right? So 1 out of every 1,000 people. Like, it's, if you really think about it, like the amount of people who just show up in general to play games, it's small. It's really, really small. But it's very, very small. It's kind of wild. Anyways, and I don't know, I've just been thinking about that. Like, how do you increase that? And I do want to say before I go on this is not at all meant to be something where I complain, oh, Phantom Tide Maw. Other than this, I will complain about this. That's number 4. We got 3, I think, in the last case. 3 foil Phantom Tide Maws, and then now we got another one. That's why we can't have the nice things like a complete master set. It's your fault, Phantom Tide Maw. Anyways, this is not meant to be a complaining video about any game stores. It's not meant to put down any game stores. I love having game stores around. I love having the opportunity to go to them. I want them all to succeed. And any comments I make today, it's not about any specific game stores that I go to or I'm around. I'm not trying to put anybody down. I want victory. I want victory for the game store, for the game, for all the games that are played at the game store. And Tech Levasan, I want it to win, okay? So that's the framework. Anyways, games, Flesh and Blood, whatever it is, like the very first thing and obvious thing is you can play any of these games now. Twin Drive, you can play any of these games without ever going into an LGS, right? You don't need to buy it from an LGS. You can buy it from anywhere online, and you just, like, you don't have to go anywhere to play it. Okay, that should be pretty obvious. It's the same with all sorts of other hobbies that people do. And so when it comes to, actually getting somebody in the door, of course, then it's got to be something a bit beyond just having product, right? Or having product and having tables, right? And so that's where, again, there's been some much longer and better, bigger discussions on the whole aspect of what you're doing as an LGS to provide something like the unique offering. What is the unique offering for why somebody walks into your door to purchase cards from you as opposed to purchasing something online? And again, there's great conversations about that. I think Team Covenant has a few of those I've enjoyed listening to, but I don't want to focus too much on like buying a product, why somebody's going to buy it from you at an LGS. But again, this discussion is more about why you want to play. Like, why do you want to play at your LGS? So I've got three kind of broader categories that we'll talk about, and the first one is hyper scrapper. No, the first one is actually just, it's busyness, right? And this is not something that is a unique challenge to a local game store, showing up for an event. It's something that we all have to compete with. Anybody who's trying to do anything and get people to do something, it's a struggle, right? I mean, one, it's just like there's competition within the hobby space, right? There's so many fun games to play. Even when you think about if you are somebody who likes going to game stores and playing at them, like I have so many game stores around me. It's like, okay, well, so many game stores and they're holding so many different events. It's like, oh, I can't go to all of them. A little adaptive plating sneaking in there. There's our first legendary of the day. It is there. It is a legendary. I don't have much to say else about that. And so with all this competition with other hobbies and games and, do I show up at a Magic event? Do I show up at a Flesh and Blood event? Do I show up whatever? Yada, yada. There's just a ton of competition. Do I want to play here, there? And so for a lot of people, like just other hobbies win out. So maybe it's a different game that's not supported at a store that wins out for them. They're not going to show up. Maybe they just would rather go on a hike or bike or watch football, whatever it is. So there's that competition. And, people, of course, can choose whatever they want to do. And a lot of times, just based on, for me, the fact that you can go to the one game store in a town of however many thousand people, and you find one, like you find a very low percentage of the population. Let's put it that way there. Like most people choose something else. And it's just a fact. It's just kind of how it is. And, because people are busy, with a card game like this, you got to sit and you got to spend time a lot of times to build something, to create a deck before you go, because it's no fun to go and play and then just lose because you didn't really build anything cool. And then, it's just the time factor. And a lot of times people just want to kind of sit and do something on their own time. Hard to actually get there and smash that performance with everybody else. But then, so there's that competition, but then the next level is just, even if this is your main hobby, if playing cards is your main hobby, this is what you think about all day. You're demolitioning all sorts of stuff as you are, thinking about how you would want to win your next event. Life is it's just busy. It's very, very busy. Again, if this is just your one hobby, finding enough time to go and participate in events can be challenging. And of course, that really depends on what stage of life you're in. If you are somebody who's pretty young and you don't have a lot of responsibilities other than maybe going to school or just a little work during the day, but then the rest of your night, your evening, your weekends, you're free to choose whatever type of thing you want to do. Great. Enjoy it while you can. Make things happen, right? Get out there, enjoy the space. But as life gets a little bit more busy, there's more responsibilities in it. It's tough, right? It can be really tough. And, it's like, well, I want to spend time with my family and spend all day at work. And then if I run off to a game store, because that's when events are scheduled at 6 o'clock. So literally immediately after work, I run to a game store to go and play games and then come back and then not see kids because they're in bed. So basically you have to decide, well, I'm not going to spend any time with my kids today. And then, and then there's not much time left for you're spending time with your significant other, and whoop. I mean, you know, like life is just, it's kind of how we've built our society. It's super busy. Already dead. Oh man, not going to make a comment on that, but you know, and so we just are busy in general, and then we're not all free at the same time. Like I mentioned, with generally around, at least where I'm at, events start around 6, maybe 5:30, maybe 6:30, almost never at 7. Almost never at 7 on a weekday night. But anyways, if you don't have that free time exactly at those times, another protocol, like maybe you want to go to the store, but you're somebody who works evenings, right? Well, you're out of luck during the week. There's no events for you to go to then, right? Maybe you're the nights and weekends working guy. You got that late shift. Tough. Maybe you just don't get off of work until 6. Tough. You know, there's one event at that store for the day that you have a chance to get to, again, because the numbers are so small. Like most, I would just love if we got TCGs rocking so much that there was enough people working, like, you know, there's enough people who started work at 4 p.m. who also still wanted to play games at a store, that they would show up and they would run events at noon. You know, they could run events at noon. They could run events starting at 8 a.m. on a weekday. You know what I mean? Like there are plenty of people who start work at 12, at 1, at 2, wax off 3, you know, whatever time beyond the normal average workday. There's a lot of people. And I mean, wouldn't it be cool if we could just get 8 of them to show up at 12 to run a draft, run an event? A little dust from the Chrome Caverns. We're looking for that foil. Still need that foil. 2 expansion slot cards in a row there. That does happen a fair amount. That does seem to happen quite a bit. And there's the 3rd Majestic in a row. Top 3 on the left. Oh man, we did it again. We did it again. And anyways, you're thinking, oh, he's just going to talk about business. Just hold on. We're going to get there. We're going to get to some of the deeper points. You're going to have to wait. We'll get there. We're laying the foundation, beginning foundation here with this business idea, right? And so it continued with this too. It's like maybe you have time for 1 or 2 games, right? Maybe it's whatever. You're free at 8 o'clock at night. You're free at 7:30. You missed the event by 30 minutes. You'd still like to go down to the game store. You'd still like to hang out with people. You'd like to just pick up a couple games. You're not going to go down there, right, if you don't have the expectation that there's going to be other people there that you could sit and join with. Right? Am I right? You're just not going to do it. You're not going to drive 20 minutes and then just hope that somebody's going to be there. And then most of the time there's not, Eva data mine. Most of the time there's not, right? And that's my experience. Like, I feel like when I go into a game store, it depends, right? There's so many different game stores with very different vibes and communities. Like, I've gone, some of them I've shown up at like one I went to at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't know if it was a Thursday or Friday or whatever it was. And I walked in there and it was just like, it was awesome. There was no event happening, but there was like 20 people just sitting in the back, hanging out and having a great time, gaming. It was awesome, like super cool. Other times you could go into a store anytime between, like any time of the day, and it's like, there's literally nobody here. And you're like, well, I don't see anybody else here, so I'm not going to be here. And you just kind of turn around and go out, you know? Like, but in general, I think a lot of LGSs have that problem where fabricate. It's just hard. Like, I'm not going to show up if there's like a 1 to 0% chance that I'm going to find somebody else to play with. It's not part of that one event of the day. And so that's tough. I'm not saying it's an easy fix. I'm not saying figuring that out is easy. We're talking through the challenges, right? We don't have any solutions yet. We're talking through challenges and problems for why somebody might not show up. And so in a sense, like, if your LGS doesn't have that kind of community space feel where it feels like a community, feels like you can just show up and there's going to be people around, a lot of people just aren't going to do it because, again, they're busy and they don't want to. Part of that busyness is they don't want to take the risk of, well, I've only got 2 hours to play, and there's probably not anybody there, but there might be, or I could just sit and play on Talishar. Right? They're going to play on Talishar, or they're going to play with, whatever their one friend that they know they can call up, whatever. Anyways, that's kind of the busyness part. So that's kind of the first thing I was thinking about. And then what comes then after that is this idea, I'm going to just call it belonging. I'm going to call it the idea of belonging. And this is connected kind of with the community space aspect to HyperX3. We got another double legendary case here. That's right, double legendary. No cold foils though, we're just doing regular legendary so far, regular. Let me remind you, we got that adaptive plating, HyperX3. We still got a box and a quarter, so there's a chance for more. And when it comes, transition, when it comes to belonging, there's a transition foil in the wrong pile. Just like at a societal level, we just don't do a really good job of connecting. We don't really do a good job of connecting amongst ourselves, which is, it's bad, right? It's pretty bad. And honestly, it's not all our individual people's fault. I wouldn't put that on every individual and say, if it's your fault that things don't happen or you have a hard time connecting with people. It's just how we've set up things here, at least in the US, right? You aren't connected to anybody at all because you're spending half your time, maybe you're sitting at home on a computer all day, working all day, or you drive to work, and of course you probably drive by yourself, a little quantum processor, and you just drive past lots of people. You don't interact with a lot of people in the office, in the cubicle. You're in your house, which is just, again, it's just your family in it. Most of the time, you're not really connected to your neighbors. Of course, your neighbors are moving all the time, and you're moving all the time. And there's no community. Community is very difficult to build. And so sometimes people will say, well, LGS, you got to work and just build that community and do all that stuff. And then they have all these people coming in they're supposed to build the community from. But those people aren't necessarily great at building community, and it's not necessarily their fault. And it's not, again, when I say that, I don't mean I'm not talking even about any specific persona or extroverted, introverted, anxious, whatever, anything that the people coming in might have. It's just no matter kind of where you are at in this society, we just don't do a good job. Okay, it's on pretty much all of us. There are a few of us somehow, somewhere, who seem to manage it well, but in general, the community's not rocking. Let's put it that way. So it's for the LGS, I got to figure this out, but because it is so bad, community is so weak in general, not everywhere, in general in our society, it's a perfect opportunity for the game store to do something different. And when you do something different, it just sticks out, right? It really sticks out. And in some ways, it might actually make it a little bit easier for you. And of course, a game store, they can't control how their customers interact with each other. They have no control over that. People might be nice to each other. They might not be nice to each other. They might ignore each other. Can't control that. You can't force people to help other people feel like they belong in a space. But as the game store and people running it, you set the tone, right? You can set the tone. You can control how you interact with people who come in your store. And there's a lot of things, quantum processor, that, again, I'm not talking about any specific place, any whatever, it's just general ideas. You can actually talk with people when they come in the store. And you can talk with people about things beyond just what they want to purchase in the moment. And yes, I know it's a business, you try and make money. I get it. I get it. I 100% want it, but part of that is getting people to keep coming back. And War Machine, always a cool foil. So for example, again, not trying to whatever at any specific store or anything, but I've gotten into lots of game stores, lots and lots of game stores, and sometimes I'm literally the only person in there other than the people working, and they'll just say nothing, absolutely nothing to you. And on one hand, it's like, if you get it, right? Because, you know, again, with our culture, sometimes it's just like, well, you just let people be, let them do their own thing, just kind of let them have their own space. They probably don't want to talk to you. They probably don't want to be bothered. They don't want to be whatever. That's another bigger topic. I think that's just this is a terrible way to live. Like, we should just interact more. And anyways, blah, blah, blah. Ooh, finally we got to check it off the list. Dust from Chrome Caverns. Yes. We got something off the list. Finally. Man, the desert's been dry, but boy, when the rain comes, it comes. Oh. So anyways, yeah, you if you're a game store and you reach out, you start trying to talk to some people more, engage with them more when they come in, you know, spend time just trying to get to know them, get their names. Yes, there's going to be a couple people who are like, I don't really want to talk. Or you're bothering me. There's going to be some people like that. But I think a lot of people, they're just happy to have someone they get to know, right? I don't know how many times I've seen people post messages for, hey, you know, I'm looking to find some people to play X game with. I could just walk into a game store, but I don't really like walking into stores like that when I don't know anybody. And like, as a game store, if you can create that sense of when somebody comes in, you get to know them and people start to feel welcomed. Here's a shiny. I'm gonna pause, but that welcoming, we will look at the shiny. Don't worry, we're gonna get there. But when people start to feel that welcome, right, they want to come back. And as you do that more and more, you start to then set the tone for the store. And as customers start to come in and interact with you like that, then it helps break barriers for you to make connections between them and other people. And then they start interacting more with each other. And then it just starts to create a place where you feel welcome. And we've got a Evo Mock Breaker. Look at that marvel. Look at that. Isn't that just a beautiful, beautiful, very pretty last Evo Mock Breaker that we need? All the breakers are set. We got to check it off the list. We are down to needing 2 marvels. Only 2 marvels. And of course, one of them is the most difficult thing to ever open in life. But we got it. We got a breaker. Oh, this is a great case. It's a great case. It's such a great, yes. Oh man, we'll open some more packs. But you see what I mean? Like, it's just, that's one way you just start that sense of belonging. And again, you don't just talk to people about what they want to buy, but, you know, even just talk about the hobby, right? Like, I can't remember the last time I was in a game store and somebody working there actually asked me, what games do I play? Right? Where they initiated the conversation about that. Maximum velocity. And I go to a decent amount of game stores, you know. Again, there was one I was in just last week. I hadn't been there in, I don't know, quite a while. I went in the middle of the day. I was the only person there. Literally the only person there. And just nothing. Just didn't get anything from like the person other than what do you want? Basically, what do you want to get? And the generic can I help you get something. But other than that, just like no interaction at all. Very, very like, you know, it's not like they were working on something really either. They're just kind of sitting there and it's like, I don't feel super welcome in here. I'm going to move this, fix this all up here because you know what? There's more to say and there's more cards to find. So let's get another case going. So yes, I get it too. As a person working in a store and different things, like, it can be exhausting, right? Especially, depending on how many people you have coming in your store, how big of a store you are, and hopefully then, if you've got lots of people coming in, hopefully you have some people who, work with you too, and then like they help and do that interaction, focus more on it and really build on it. But it's exhausting, but it's worth the effort. I really do think it's worth the effort. I think that is something, that helps cards go upside. Whoa, that's why it's confusing. What is this? What is this? Like, what is this? Why is it 50-50? That's the first pack I've seen doing that. We're on case 20. This is case 20, and that is the first one I have seen half up and half down. And you know what? It's not going to be the last. It is not going to be the last. And I hope that means, here, talk about looking at something from the printer. That's really interesting. Here's where you can see, okay, these ones all come from here, from this little sheet or section or whatever it is. Now it switches over. And then here it's like, oh, you might get another one in there, but that's just the the intrigue right there. 5 coming off from a different place. Anyways, what am I saying here? What's going on? It's exhausting. It's worth it. I think it's worth it. I believe that this kind of connection, even starting at the basic level of just talking to people, get to know them, learn about what games they like, they don't like, just why they're there, beyond why they are literally there to buy something from you today and what they're trying to get this day. Like, why are they showing up at the store? What do they like to do? What do they do for work? Blah, blah, blah. Anyways, create that sense of belonging. The more people feel like they belong, the more they're going to be excited about coming back, and hopefully then for events. And of course, that's all kind of assuming that the more people who come to your events are profitable and worth running and all that jazz, right? That's a whole nother discussion, whether or not an event is actually a profitable thing to run at a game store and what you have to do to make it profitable. I'm tired of flipping them over, so I'm just going to make a second side pile. Yeah, it's a bigger conversation. And I think it feels so necessary to really rock. Like you can rock again for a lot of stores just from like the fully competitive side. Sometimes you can have big off events, right? And sometimes the community just sometimes the store doesn't have to do a lot of work to make this happen, right? Sometimes just the community just kind of, it clicks, people show up for events, you don't have to do anything, right? This is more for the store where it's like, I don't know why nobody's here, kind of a thing. And honestly, even if your store is rocking, even if you still have lots of people, I think the more that you do stuff like this, the more that your average person feels like they belong, the more they'll keep coming back. Because I've also done that too, where I've gone to plenty of stores where it's not empty. It's by no means empty. Like you go in there and you hang out, but the amount of them that I actually sit and I think, you know what? I really want to come back to this place next week. Like it's not a lot of them. Like there's not a lot of stores where the actual atmosphere of the store itself with the people around it is so compelling that I start to include that in my calculation for should I come back here or not. Wow, that was the whole left side of the box, and that had 0 Majestics other than the rainbow foil that was always supposed to be there. So anyways, that's just something I think it's kind of a level up. Here's our cold foil because we got the Matrix, Energy Matrix. They're so cool. They look so cool. They look so cool. And that's, again, that goes back to, we're going to really kind of start kicking things down here. It kind of goes back to that busyness factor, right? If you feel busy all the time, you feel really busy, you don't have lots of time, but there's a place where you start to feel like you belong there. Like you have a sense of like, man, when I go there, there's always somebody who says hi to me. There's always somebody that talks to me. Then it's like, you know what? Yeah, sure. I got some time. I'd like to get a game in, Evil Steel Soul Tower. And, maybe there won't be anybody to play with there, or maybe I won't be able to get in 2 games. I'll only get in 1 or something. But just because you feel like, you know, you belong there and you like hanging out with the people who are around there, and you know, at a minimum, you know that there's people at the store who work at the store that you just like, and you like to hang out with. I mean, come on, it's not a zero. It's not a zero in the calculation of should I go somewhere or not, right? They just need that little extra boost to get out the door. And man, you know, I think it does big stuff. And with that too, gosh, there's so many things. I got so many ideas. Again, I know none of this is necessarily easy to actually do as a store contest a minefield, but I'm really good at dropping those packs. That means it's a good one, right? Last time I dropped something, it was a marvel. So let me see. We'll just see what the drop pack is, and then we'll continue on with random thoughts from the madness. Full tilt, it was nothing. This is a nothing box. Wow, this is terrible. There's like 4 packs left, which means we're going to have a run of Majestics, right? We're going to have a run of them. See? Start the run. There's the Hoons. The old Hoons, not the Goons. We got Hoons. Oh my goodness. There you go. How's that? Right? So first one we talked about was busyness as being an issue, and then belonging. Like, I guess the thing there is, like, a lot of times you just don't always get a sense of belonging when you go to a store. And I think that having that, the more you can create that people feel that, more people are going to show up. And the more people who feel that, then they're going to bring more people. It's a rolling thing. It's powerful. Stasis cell. And last pack. But the third and final, I don't know. We'll see if I have another idea. But kind of the third big category idea is tectonic rift. No, it's this idea of creating a can't miss experience. Can't miss experiences. Do you know what I mean when I say that? Like, does it stick out to you? You know, like, think about the events that you really, really go to, right? That you really run to, flock to, that people in general flock to, right? One of them is the pre-release. Pre-releases have really high attendances. Why? Why do they have it? Because if you miss it, you miss it, right? Sonata Phantasmia. It's not going to happen again. You feel like you can't miss it because you can. You're not going to, like, you know, quit the game if you can't go. But it feels like a can't miss experience because you've been excited for a new set. It's your first opportunity to play it. In general, the store, if you don't go to it, you will not be able to go to it again at that store. I mean, with Flesh and Blood anyways. You know, Magic, a lot of them have pre-releases throughout the weekend. But if you're the kind of person who's in the busy category and you look at your store and like, wow, they have them all weekend, but I'm only free on Saturday night, man, if you don't go to that Saturday night one, you missed it. There's not going to be another pre-release. It's not going to happen again. You're done. You know what I mean? Like, it's that can't miss. Or you think about, like, you know, Road to Nationals. You get this big crowd of people because, well, this is the chance to play in that event. There's not going to be another one. Worlds is coming up. If you have the finances to go there and you're excited about it, you know, it's like, you can't miss it. You don't want to miss it. There's not another one coming for a year. So if I miss that, then you know, like me, I'm just going to miss it. Then you miss out. And I'm going to miss out on that cool playmats and also, oh man, oh, don't talk to me about that. Anyway, so creating those experiences are awesome. Now, of course, you can't do that. You can't just do that with your regular old event, you know, weekly event. Okay, it's like, well, we have another draft this week. Well, there's a draft last week. There's going to be a draft next week. There's going to be a draft the week after that. Actually, they're going to be drafting the same set for the next 2 months. So I don't need to go this week, right? Or, you know, it's just another standard event, another yada, yada, yada. And, you know, of course, a lot of people, then that's kind of why you have like these different prize kits and stuff to incentivize people to come, because, well, if you don't go to the events, then you're just going to, you know, Zoom call doesn't work. It doesn't work. You're going to miss out on getting this promo, right? Promo card, promo playmat. And that, it does work to an extent. It does work to an extent. But again, that only works, kind of going back to the idea that most people don't go to an event. Most people play at home. it doesn't work for most people, right? It doesn't get most people to actually go to the LGS, even within the game community. Because it's cool. It's an awesome incentive. I love it. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, 100% should, but it's just not quite enough to get everybody out the door. It's not quite enough to get, apparently, the majority of people out the door, right? And that's partly because people can play at home, right? Like the game itself, you can play it at home. You can play it at McDonald's if you want. I don't know. You can play it wherever. You can play it on your computer. You know, a whole nother discussion with that. So the store itself, it just needs a bigger drive to make it that can't miss event. And of course, too, you can't control, even within like people who want to play the game, you can't control the experience within a gameplay, right? You know, like you can't create it so that the games at your store, they just play better. Like they're just closer, you have tighter matches, or you know, you have wilder draws, or like you can't control any of that. But you can control the space, right? You can control the environment, create the environment, set the tone for the environment in such a way that when people feel like they belong, right? When people really feel like they belong, they really feel like, okay, I go to this place and I know the people there, they know me, they're the most fun people to go play with because we can sit and be there. It feels like a community space to hang out, yada, yada, yada. Like, then it's kind of like, man, I don't want to miss this event because this is when everybody's going to be hanging out. And I love hanging out with these people. And, you know, if I don't go tonight, I'm not going to be able to see them all till next week. Like, you know, bummer. I don't want to miss that out. Like, yeah, that's what I want to do. Like, you want to get to that point where people start to feel like whatever night of the week it is, or, you know, whatever time of the week, like, this is what I do on Thursday nights. We just go and we hang out there. And for that to, like, again, sit into the space where it's not just about trying to get the playmat, or it's not just about like a small group. It happens a lot. You can get like 4 or 5 people totally into that, right? You can get 6 people, whatever. Like those type of groups, they do happen. They happen all over the place where they get kind of tight knit. Sometimes they just go from event to event to event within the same day. They go hang out to eat. Awesome. You know, great stuff. But somehow you want to figure out how to create that type of an environment at the broader scale within your store, and preferably helping people stay at your store and not then just hop onto the next store to try and get more prize support or whatever, so that your store becomes the place that people just feel like, I don't want to miss out on that, you know, man, or even when they do, they're just going to want to come back as soon as they can. Like, you know what, maybe they had a vacation, work trip, some extravagant whatever, they've been gone for a month, but they just start to get that itch of, man, you know, I want to get back there. I want to go. I miss these people. I miss being there. And it has to be bigger than that idea of, oh, I just miss playing Flesh and Blood. I miss playing Magic, because they can do that anywhere. Like it's just how it is. It's unfortunately how, or I don't know, fortunately, unfortunately, whatever perspective, that's how it is, you know. But you can, like, that space, the LGS space could become a space where it's like, yeah, I could play Magic Arena at home, but it's, you know, but these people aren't going to be there. They're not going to be at home. I'm just be sitting by myself. And, you know, when I go there, it's so cool being around these people. It's so much fun. Like, that's the kind of, like, you can't miss experience. And when you really build it out that way, and you build, like, obviously it's a bunch of people coming together with the same interest, right? The same hobby. Of course. You're not getting a bunch of people to come talking about fishing, to talk about whatever. Like, like you go to the game store because you like games, right? I guess, or because someone else in your family likes games, or your friend and you're forced to go there. Anyways, course, of course. But once that real connection becomes more about the place that you're playing as opposed to specifically what you're playing, or it's a combination of both. Look at that. Now we got two of them. What is that? That's how it goes, though, right? You don't get any, and then you get a bunch. That's the way things work. Like then, one of the biggest challenges that people have, or I don't know if it's the biggest challenge, but one big challenge that stores can have is when there's a bunch of people excited about this game, and then they play the game for a while, and then they stop playing that game, and then they stop coming to the store. Right? But if they get hooked in to the ecosystem, that's totally the wrong word. They get hooked into the community of the group, then you know what? Like, they just love being around the store. Maybe they come play a different game at the store, right? Or that's when you start to get people who, your store is totally stuck on Magic. Magic's the only thing you can get people into and get rolling. But then, people drop out of Magic. They don't always stay forever. But if they drop and then they just like being there, and it's like, oh, well, let's try Flesh and Blood, or let's try whatever. And then you start to, in that community again, because people are just hanging out, they just start playing the next game and trying that out, and then other people see it, and then it just builds a space where you keep coming back. And, even when you're gone for a long time, right? Or maybe you move farther away in the city, but you realize, you know what? Like, that's the store, those are the people I connect with, that's my community. Going back to it. Anyways, that's a lot of rambling about that, isn't it? That's a lot of rambling about it. Of course, I want to hear what your thoughts are, your opinions are. Like, I know very, very much so that this is not an easy thing to do. I know it's not an easy thing to do. It can be very difficult. It can be very, very challenging to build. But it just, like, that's not a reason to not try, right? It's not a reason to not try. My point is also not that there are no communities anywhere. Again, this is just general talking. Like, one of the best things you hear from people, saying how much they love Flesh and Blood is like, man, I love all the friends I've made around the world. Or I love the people I get to hang out with. Like, you go to the Pro Tour event, and if you know people, or you get to know people, like, half the fun is not actually playing the game, but it's running around, going out to eat, hanging out, doing stuff, right? Just getting to know people, being around them. That's half the fun. And when you can start to facilitate that at your store, things just rock. They rock. And that's why we love games. That's why we do it. We want to play in the Flesh and Blood. We want to be in the Flesh and Blood. I don't want to just flip paper. I can just flip paper by myself at home, but I want to flip paper with somebody and talk to them, get to know them. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And I guess I've just had some experiences. Actually. That's why I got back into Magic, was specifically to get to know more people and make some friends. When I was in a place where I didn't have a lot of friends, didn't know a lot of people. And so Magic was a way at a store where it was kind of like, here's this one store in this big city, and, there's already kind of a lot of people, friend groups, people hanging out, doing stuff. And, it was just, I loved going to that store. I loved hanging out there, and especially, with somebody that was at the front desk that I knew, just loved it, You just walk in, and, the first thing I would do was not run down, check my deck, make sure I got everything, get paid, sign up, whatever. But it was just walk up, go sit, and just talk to Already Dead again. And just talk to the guy at the desk. It was welcoming. It was fun. It felt like you were going into a space, not just to slay the angels your other opponent was playing, but just a place where you just felt like you were supposed to be there, and people wanted you to be there. And honestly, every time that there was not somebody that connected really well at the front, where they just kind of didn't say anything or ignored you, or like just a little hey, so it was a little bit disappointing. It's kind of like, oh, I'll move on. So I don't know. There's a lot of power in that stuff. Again, not easy to do, difficult to do, worth it. But most things in life that are difficult to do are, most things that are worth doing in life are difficult. And again, my hope is that all these LGSs, everything can succeed. And Already Dead Again is coming around today. And again with this, but the point is not, like my point again is like the LGS, you can't just wait twin drive for everybody else to do it and make the community happen and work, because it's just like, we're not all great at it. And when it's your space, you set the tone for your space. Now, at the same time, don't get me wrong. The point is not, hey, if you are just your average, if you're not the owner of the game store, you're not the worker at the game store, like you just show up to whatever, it's a store, it's like, don't just be somebody who does nothing, right? Don't just be a bystander, just waiting for the community to show up, just waiting for it to happen. It's like, you can start, and you can make things happen too. You can interact with the person across from you before the game, after the game, as you're all waiting. Like, take some time, say hi to people, interact a little bit, and step through whatever concerns you have. Like, I mean, I'm honest with you, like, I would like to see a marble or a legendary or anything out of this case. I'll be honest with you. But it's like, I'm not the kind of person where it's easy for me to start conversations with people. Somehow, I do find it the easiest to do at the game store, though, because there's just so much low-hanging fruit, right? Like, hey, that was a really cool deck that you played or whatever. Why'd you go with this, or why'd you do that, or what? There's so many simple ways to just start a conversation, and it's amazing just how easy and difficult it can be at the same time. So don't, if you want to have more of that sense of belonging, you want to help that kind of a thing happen, don't just wait for the game store to do it. You start doing it. Start talking to people. Start hanging out with people. Start showing up at the store more often. Say hi to the people behind the counter. Try to get to know them. Try and, learn about them. Just make a better place. Make it a better place. Oh man, this is the last box here. We're gonna stop here. Two cases I think is enough for today, especially because this case, here's one of those disaster cases. Feast or famine. We have found the famine. I guess I feasted too much earlier. I don't think I'd seen a famine case like this in quite a while. I actually don't remember getting any cases without a legendary in a long time. So, kind of sad. We'll see. Let me know your comments, of course, in the bottom. Thanks you guys for watching. If you like random stuff like this, if you like conversations like this, really appreciate it if you hit that like button. You leave a little subscription below if you haven't done that already. Most of you who watch are not subscribed, so just come on, just hit the button there if you like it, if you enjoy watching this. I appreciate it. It means a lot to me. And of course, the likes and different things that are clicked on the video, they help me see what types of videos that other people want me to make. And so that's just a nice clear metric, of course, for me to make decisions in what I talk about, what I film in the future. 2 more packs. The madness, man, we are so close. We are so close. It feels close. But of course, even when it's close, it still can be a long way to go. Last pack magic. I feel like I used up all the last pack magic on the preview box. I don't feel like there's been much since then. Nope, nada. Overloaded it. Oh, peace out. We'll see you next time.